From Wana Brands, welcome to Enhance Your Life. I'm your host, Jonathan Small, and each week I talk to people from all sorts of professions and backgrounds about how cannabis has enhanced their lives and how this healing plant can enrich your life too. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enhance Your Life podcast. My name is Jonathan Small. Welcome. Very excited about our guest today. Len May joins us, and Len is the CEO and co-founder of Endocanna Health. That is a biotechnology research company that utilizes a patented process for what it calls its EndoDNA genetic test. EndoDNA provides two ways to submit your DNA for analysis. It's either collected through a simple saliva swab or a direct upload of your genetic data through services like Ancestry.com or 23andMe. And you're probably wondering, well, what does my DNA test have to do with a show about cannabis? And Len is going to tell you. Len is also the co-host with me of another podcast on cannabis and music and many other things called Everything is Personal. And he's just written a new book called Making Cannabis Personal. Remove the fear and take the guesswork out of your cannabis experience. I'm very excited to read that new book. Len May, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, John. I think people fell asleep. It was so long. They're like, "Oh my God, that's such a long intro. When are you going to get done?"
You have quite the background. It takes, and that was like an abbreviated version of it.
That is absolutely true. It's an interesting background. I think one of the reasons why I have such a diverse background and so long is because I have ADD and I could never find what really I'm supposed to be doing. So I did like a million different things in my life, but it always led me back to the plant. And at some point I was just like, you know what? I'm just coming out of the cannabis closet, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing my whole life, and follow my passion. So kids out there, follow your dreams.
Seize the day, follow your passion. I'm so glad you did, because your passion has really helped a lot of people, take the fear and the guesswork out of cannabis. Let's talk about your EndoDNA genetic test. I have taken it. It's really fascinating. I recommend it. But let's step back and explain to people what your DNA can tell you about your cannabis use.
The main thing that people really get incorrect, it's not about cannabis. It's about your endocannabinoid system. And this is where I think I appreciate the opportunity to kind of fleshing this out a little bit. We have this amazing system. It's primary regulatory system. I'm sure your listeners already heard about it. A lot of them already know about it, but it's this amazing system. And I kind of equate it to sort of your puppet master. And it modulates as the puppet master all of your other systems. It gets signals from your systems, and then it adjusts all the different things so your body and your mind and everything else can work in unison, in balance, which is called homeostasis. And we produce our own endogenous endocannabinoids, and sometimes those are out of balance. So we're lucky we have this amazing plant that we get phytocannabinoids from that mimic the way some of our endogenous endocannabinoids work. And this plant, and we have receptors for them. They bind to the receptors and they adjust, our endocannabinoid system. But what happens to some people is that when they consume some of the components of the plant, they can have an adverse experience. So an adverse experience can be, what would be one adverse experience, John? Let me ask you.
A heightened paranoia and anxiety.
There you go.
I've definitely had that experience. I think many people have.
An adverse experience, right? So think about it this way. If this industry is going to move out of the dark ages and into the future, you have to follow the breadcrumb trail of what was done before. The pioneers, even if it's the pharmaceutical industry and the physicians, the number one goal is not to harm your patient. And if we're going to hone in and be precise, we have to be aware that people have predispositions and everybody is different. I started this company because I started seeing experiences from people, two individuals with the same exact symptomatic conditions, consuming the same chemovar, and chemovar is another name for strain. It's called chemical variety of cannabis. and have a completely different experience. I used to work with a guy, and this is the whole indica sativa kind of thing. And he would say, when he consumes a sativa dominant hybrid, which is supposed to be an up kind of thing, it actually put him to sleep. And the opposite, I could never wrap my mind around that. And it has a lot to do with your genetic predispositions. So the first thing is to be able to use your DNA as your blueprint for everything that you do, to map your experience on different things that you would put in your body that may trigger this on and off switch, that may trigger this genetic expression. So understanding first that you have these genetic predispositions that may, when triggered, create an adverse experience. And what you want to do is use this as a guide to guide you so you can have an optimal experience by avoiding those pitfalls, like, as you mentioned, anxiety, paranoia, psychosis. Also, on the flip side, depressive states. Also, some people are poor metabolizers. What is the method of consumption that you should consume? I know a lot of people that have bad experiences with edibles. Well, we already know that your liver converts THC to 11-oxyhydroxide, which is more powerful. But if you're a poor metabolizer, you can consume an edible. It'll be a longer onset. It'll be a slower onset, and it'll be a very, very intense experience. But if you already have a predisposition to psychosis with that, now that bad experience can trigger psychosis, and people have psychotic episodes. So this is a substance that's an altering substance. And we talk about, recreational, medicinal. There is no recreational. Anything that you consume is a medicinal, therapeutic wellness product that changes things. Is it adult use for 21 and over? Absolutely. But should be monitored. And I'm not here to scare people away. I'm a huge proponent of cannabis, but cannabis has to be personal. It has to be precision. And we have to be able to look at the information that we're getting from anecdotal data, because big pharma and the government, everybody prevented us from doing real clinical trials. So thousands and thousands and thousands of people report back their experiences. You gather that information and you create better precision products for individuals that have these predispositions. So that's basically the idea of EndoDNA, is to be able to guide people through that experience and then bookend their experience. And what I mean by that is, you start with the blueprint, which is your DNA. You then go to specific formulations that are more genetically aligned with you, all the way to specific products that give you the best match. And then the feedback of how that product is working for the individual gets put back into an algorithm, into a database, so we can make better suggestions for people and for the industry. And so that's how EndoDNA works.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And for those who have not yet ordered your kit and taken their tests, let's kind of take them through what they might learn, how it works. All right, so let me explain the experience I went through. I get this nice looking kit, which looks very much like a sort of 23andMe or Ancestry.com DNA test. I did the swab method. I sent it in, and a few weeks later, I got an email saying that my results were ready, just like you would be at 23andMe or Ancestry.com or all those websites. And instead of learning that I had a Russian grandpa who lived in a shtetl in
you already knew that
in the Ukraine, yeah, I found out that there were certain terpenes, and I had a genetic predisposition to different things. But we don't have to go through my specific test. But give me a sort of general review of what people can expect to learn when they get their results back.
Yeah, there's over 160 different reports in over 50 different categories, and it's looking at your entire endocannabinoid system, different markers for stress, anxiety, cognitive function, digestive, metabolic reports, also your nutrients and your vitamin reports, as well as THC side effects. So the report will show you your genetic predisposition as it associated with those specific categories. It'll show you if you have what's called a variant. Not to get really sciencey, but we look at over 700,000 different SNPs, which are single nucleotide polymorphisms, which are basically your genes unraveled. And then from there, you're looking at something called allele combinations. So once again, getting sciencey, but I'll try to
You can
make
geek
the
out a little
analogy.
bit.
All right.
But by the way, let me
just.
just, it's not, I mean, you can get as sciencey as you want, but when you look at that report, it's pretty clear. Like, it's very clear what you need to do. And, it's not boring.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, because we do have, and I apologize in advance for any Bob from Iowa that's listening, but we have what we call the Bob from Iowa summary. And this is we can geek out on the science. We have all the science, all the references. And by the way, everything that we put out has to have a peer review reference. But we have a Bob from Iowa summary that's color coded, shows you green, yellow, red, and you can look at it really quickly. But if you want to dive into the science, you can. And the science really shows you the genetic predispositions behind all those conditions. It shows you your genotype, which is what I was referring to as the allele combination. So we get these allele combinations from our parents. And when we inherit the same one, it's called homozygous. We inherit two different ones, it's called heterozygous. But our DNA speaks to us in 4 letters: a C, a T, an A, and a G, which are nucleotides. The same way computers correspond in a binary code, ones and zeros, that's how DNA talks. So when we have a combination of those 2 letters together, that gives us the genetic predisposition as it's compared to general population. So if we have a risk allele, then we have an increased risk of that genetic condition being expressed. So DNA has been used for a long time in medical diagnostics. We've looked at DNA for like the BRCA gene, showing somebody they have a predisposition of breast cancer. It's been used to show people that they have what I call the motherfucker gene. It's the MTHFR, which is folic acid, right? So you have deficiencies there. So we've used DNA for a very long time. What we haven't used DNA for is to help somebody understand their endocannabinoid system better. And that's where we pioneered the space, patented the technology to be able to guide people the same way that all the diagnostic tools are used these days in medicine, to be able to guide people through their endocannabinoid experience, and do it in a way where you can geek out on the science all you want because all the references are there. Also, you can just get as simple as having trust that this is scientifically backed, and the products that are coming out of that are suggested for you are specific to you or tailored to you based on your genetic predispositions. So it's a complete experience where you can start with DNA and you can end up with a product that's more personally geared to you, and you can have a lot more confidence to be able to consume cannabis, even if you're a seasoned consumer. Like I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but this is as seasoned as they get. Like I did Tommy Chong's DNA test, and somebody who's in his 80s, who is an icon of the industry, who's consumed for generations. What does he need to know about his cannabis experience?
Did you find out that he was related to Cheech?
Yes, second cousins twice
exactly.
No,
all right. What did Chong's? But what did he?
Well, I don't want to. I mean, we're HIPAA compliant. We're HIPAA compliant.
Yes,
so
we should mention that this is all, because I think a lot of people get freaked out with DNA tests.
Oh, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Just to get back to the Tommy thing, it blew his mind in a way that he was doing a show, and I wasn't supposed to be on the show. I just did his results, and then he was trying to talk about it because he was so fascinated, and he called me on the air to sit with him and explain it to him because he was so fascinated. He was like, "You were right on." And he never talked about that stuff before, that he's also had some interesting adverse experiences with certain formulations, etc. So it's interesting to learn about yourself. Some of the things you may already have known, and this is just a validation. Like some people say, okay, I'm not a sativa person, and I'll talk about indicas and sativas too if you want, but I know that this isn't for me, but this is why it's not for me. So going back to data, one of the things that people say all the time, oh, my DNA, I'm not going to give up my DNA, that they're going to clone me or whatever. Look, you're not that special. If you had real special DNA, you're drinking your Starbucks, somebody will come up and wipe your Starbucks cup, and they got your DNA, and you're already being cloned. The idea of getting your DNA is not about getting John's or Len's personal data. We are HIPAA compliant. We are in an Amazon AWS environment. We have to be HIPAA compliant, which is like a 61-page document to be compliant under HIPAA.
What does that mean?
For your data. So that means your data is fully anonymized.
Okay.
This is what physicians use in order to have a communication with their patients because all that data is secure. So the way that it works is you get your kit, you have to register your kit before you swab. When you register your kit, that information is associated with your genetic profile. So it's all encrypted. So we don't know, I would never be able to go through your DNA report. You have to log in with your login and password to decrypt that, and then you can share that with your healthcare professional. So we have something called the Biovault, which allows us to be able to encrypt and de-identify your personal information. And just so I'm clear with everybody out there listening, we do collect data. The data that we collect is extremely important, but we don't collect personal data on John's DNA or Len's DNA. We collect data of thousands of people that have a similar genotype that have taken this formulation and that it proved efficacious for them. So it worked for them. And then we learn from that experience and provide better suggestions. So it's not about your personal information. It's about the data that we get for efficacy that's really important for, the products in the industry.
Talk about the different categories you look at, just so people can sort of have an expectation of what they're gonna see.
So categories would be anxiety, stress, cognitive function, digestive, drug dependence. We look at people have dependence on opioid dependence markers. So pain management specialists recommend cannabis instead of opioids because you have a predisposition for that. We look at things like fitness, muscle soreness, even immune susceptibility. So if you have a susceptibility towards influenza or like allergic rhinitis, which is allergies and stuff, other metabolism of different cannabinoids, CBD and THC, how you metabolize, what will be the guide for dosing based on what type of metabolite you are. Also musculoskeletal. So if you have like osteoporosis, rheumatoid arthritis, or anything that's autoimmune that can be controlled through your endocannabinoid system, mood, depressive states, also nutrition reports. So calcium deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies, zinc, also like all the vitamins A, C, D, sleep. If you have insomnia predispositions or things like bruxism, which is grinding your teeth, also THC side effects. So some people have, aggression from THC use. Some have impulsivity. Some people have psychomotor control challenges.
So once you get these categories, you also make recommendations about dosage, right? And about the different terpene profiles that might be beneficial for you, and also the ones that you should avoid as well, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the other thing is we look at drug-to-drug interaction, which is really important. I think people don't understand when they're taking prescription medication that some of the cannabinoids can actually inhibit the efficacy of your prescription medication, or some of them can accelerate some of those prescription medications. So we have a full database that you can put on your prescription medication, whether it's brand or generic, and it will show you if a cannabinoid is an inhibitor of that, and you should dose accordingly to that, and speak to your healthcare professional. This is not a diagnostic tool. We're not here to make recommendations or suggestions. We're here to guide you in experience so you can have a conversation with your healthcare professional if any of those things show up. And you're absolutely right. The secret sauce to the experience is the combination. It's like a concert of your cannabinoids and your terpenes speaking together. Some of the terpenes and cannabinoids can actually turn the switch on where you can experience this adverse event. Some of them, it's the opposite of that. They can turn it off. So by guiding you into your optimal cannabinoid and terpene profile, that can create an experience. And one of the things that, we've had feedback from the report that, okay, I have several of these categories. There's one formulation that's telling me to do this and one formulation that's telling me to do that. Can you just tell me one single thing that I need that's going to take care of all my needs? What's one? And I'm like, okay, can you tell me where in any type of medicine, therapeutic anything that you can take one and it'll take care of all your needs. You have to be specific to what it is that you're trying to address. So if focus or something that you're doing during the day needs to be addressed, then you have your daytime formulation. And then if sleep is an issue, then maybe you have your nighttime formulation that's more geared and personalized to you. So you have sort of your nighttime, your daytime, your NyQuil, DayQuil formulation. So you have to understand what it is that you're trying to address, and we're guiding you into that experience.
Do you have like coaches or something that can help? I luckily know you. So I was able to have you and personally take me through the results. But how do you, if somebody just saw that and they, well, it's Greek to me, I need somebody to walk me through this.
So it's a great kind of segue to the future, I guess.
Right.
So the first thing we are building right now, which we pretty much have, are videos. So we have videos explaining each symptomatic condition. So it's videos that we wrote the scripts for that are specific to those symptomatic conditions, specific to those suggestions. But the second thing that we're launching is exactly that platform, the concierge platform, that allow us to have a more in-depth conversation with our customer base. So if you have further questions, then remember, it's about the endocannabinoid system. What type of nutrition should I be consuming? What about mental health? What about vitamins? What about supplements? All those things, and cannabinoids included in that. So yeah, we are building a coaching network right now that is going to be able to guide people into their experience, and also a physician network that's going to allow people to have a more in-depth conversation with a real healthcare professional who can talk about their specific diagnosis possibly. So if somebody has a specific medical condition, the healthcare professional can guide them in experience and use the DNA test to be able to know what they should do specific to their medical condition as well.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about you. You're a fascinating guy with lots of wide-ranging experience and knowledge. How has cannabis enhanced your life?
Yeah, cannabis is my go-to medicine for lots of different things. As a kid, I was diagnosed with ADD, and I was put on all kinds of prescription meds, and I was lucky that I found cannabis. And the way the cannabis worked for me, I'm not the hyper guy, but I always talk about the story and people resonate with it. If you look at my computer, I probably have like 40, 50 windows open at the same time. Well, that happens. That's what's going on in my head. And for people who don't have ADD, the way I look at it is I have a depletion of dopamine. So my brain is always looking for that next dopamine hit. So if I'm getting it, I'll hyper focus. I'll keep shooting it. I'm focusing on that. But if I'm not, I'm looking for dopamine. So I'm always looking for next thing. That's why, but if you can harness this correctly, you're able to use this as your superpower. You can multitask effectively. So what cannabis did for me in school specifically, it allowed those windows that are going in my head to sort of shrink and allowed me to focus a little bit more. So it became my go-to medicine. And for me, because of my upbringing and all the things that cannabis created, I don't know if you want me to talk about it or not, but all the things that cannabis created in my life, the negative relationships that it created, and I stuck with it, I became an activist because I'm like, other people should really get educated about this and know that this can be a therapy in their life. And that allowed me to be able to pursue this. And I still had other jobs. I worked in big six consulting. I did venture capital. I did all these different things, but always led me back to the plant. When I started being involved more in the cannabis industry in terms of owning and operating dispensaries and really seeing even more of the therapeutic effects of the plant with hundreds and hundreds of people on a daily basis, I mean, it just underlined what it is that I should be doing. And cannabis, for me, gave me a purpose. It's besides my own medicine. There's nothing more than I like. I mean, my business is, I'm passionate about what we do. But my favorite thing to do is to have a conversation with a person that has a real medical condition and make a suggestion to them, help them as much as I possibly can, have them come back and say, because you suggested something or because Endo did this, I am now better. I am now or my experience with my pain has subsided, or my condition, I was going through chemo and this really helped. So the feedback is the driver. I mean, this is what I get up in the morning for, to see that we know that something cannabis related, this amazing plant, and what we've been able to contribute and what I've been able to contribute, that's what feeds me every single day. It's moving. It's just incredible to see, because, I look back over the 27, 28 years that I've been doing this kind of thing. And in the last 10 years, how far we come. We still have a long way to go. But people who are like, oh, cannabis is a drug and all this stuff, and now they're coming in. I like to invest in cannabis stocks. I want to do this. It's just incredible what is going on. And, like I said, we still have a long way to go, but I pinch myself sometimes. And I'm like, I'm so grateful to be part of this amazing industry. We are just scratching the surface. There's 500 different components that we identified already in this plant. Imagine the future of this thing. Like studying all these combinations, studying how they go together, studying how they work with the individual's DNA, and getting precision medicine, really looking at this as a precision medicine. So many opportunities in this plan, and allowed me to do these types of interviews. It allowed me to speak all over the world. It allowed me to write a book, and it allowed me to, feed my family. And I'm super grateful to this plant. And, my goal is to give back as much as possible, give back to the industry, give back to the plant, and give back to, the people that helped me get to where I am. It's not an individual pursuit. It's a journey with a team around you. And there's many people in my history, in my life, that have supported me through this process. And, I'm super grateful for that.
Well, we are grateful that you have, made it your life's work to bring some light on this plant and, to take the stigma away from it. Tell us a little bit more about it. People want to, say, order your book. I know it's coming out very soon. How do they order your book and find out more about you?
The book should be out sometime late spring, but you can take advantage of some amazing special offers. If you go to publishizer.com/makingcannabispersonal, and the kit, you can order the kit on endodna.com. If you've taken a 23andMe, if you've taken an Ancestry or any of the other DNA tests, you can just upload your raw data directly to that and get a report instantaneously. You don't have to wait the several weeks that you do when you swab. And the next is the bookend of the precision therapeutics, the suggestion, and having individual coaches and healthcare professionals that'll help guide you to your overall health and wellness experience. So real, true precision therapeutics.
And let's not forget the Everything is Personal podcast, which I co-host with Len weekly. We've had a lot of interesting guests on that show. Be Real was just with us from Cypress Hill.
That was the best.
Len and I love to geek out on hip-hop music and really all kinds of music. He's still trying to teach me to like the blues. And he's getting closer. So anyway, if you like music and you like cannabis, you'll probably like that show. Len May, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom, and the best to you.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.
Enhance Your Life is brought to you by Wana, the #1 infused product in the U.S. Wana's entire process is designed to deliver the same great experience time after time. They have spent years fine-tuning their recipes so that their products are delicious, consistent, and potent. For more information, check out wanawellness.com. That's Wana, W-A-N-A, wellness.com.